Russia's biggest offensive ends in disaster. Hundreds of tanks destroyed in one strike. Russia launched a massive attack on Ukraine. But FPV drones, javelin missiles, precision mines, and accurate artillery turned the whole operation into a catastrophe. So what happens when a Russian armored unit tries to attack Ukrainian positions and walks right into an ambush? We've gathered footage and detailed insights from the operation to give you a solid breakdown. Let's dive into the details together. Stay tuned. A convoy of Russian tanks and armored personnel carriers was formed to launch an assault on Ukraine. The convoy had 7 vehicles in total, 3 tanks and 4 APCs. After moving forward for a while, they regrouped in an abandoned settlement. But Ukrainian forces were already prepared and closely watching the convoy. As one of the Russian tanks moved forward, it was hit by a javelin missile. Drone footage clearly showed the tank getting destroyed. Despite that, the Russian troops kept advancing. Soon after, the Ukrainian side launched a second javelin missile, hitting another target with pinpoint accuracy, causing a huge explosion. And they didn't stop there. Another javelin was fired and once again hit its target dead on. One of the Russian APCs that had witnessed the strikes tried to escape, but Ukrainian troops fired an RPG at it before it could flee, disabling the vehicle. After that, a remaining Russian tank tried to pull back while firing at Ukrainian positions, but Ukrainian forces hit it too. The explosion caused severe damage, leaving it unable to take another hit. Nearby, another previously hit Russian tank exploded in a massive fireball. The intensity of the blast was obvious from the size of the fireball and flying debris. Thinking it had survived the chaos, another Russian APC moved toward a wooded area and stopped to deploy infantry troops. The Russian soldiers launched an assault, but Ukrainian troops were ready and quickly neutralized them. The APC tried to retreat, but Ukrainian forces managed to destroy it before it could get away. The Ukrainians always prioritize destroying vehicles so Russian infantry can't retreat easily. That APC was completely blown up. Now Russia is trying to hit Ukrainian forces with more than 100 armored vehicles. Their goal is to break through Ukraine's defenses by attacking from multiple directions. Do you think this Russian offensive will succeed? Let's take a closer look. Ukrainian troops used fragmentation munitions to score a direct hit and destroy a Russian tank. A Russian APC was sent ahead to scout, but it was instantly targeted and disabled. At the same time, Ukrainian artillery struck another APC in the convoy. One of the Russian tanks tried to dodge the artillery and took a different route, but ran over a landmine. The next wave of Russian tanks rolled straight into a minefield. It didn't take long for the first explosion to go off. One APC stopped after the blast, but a nearby tank kept moving and triggered another mine, setting off a chain reaction. Ukrainian forces then launched more high-powered strikes. One group of Russian tanks managed to reach the front line. The lead tank, equipped with mine-clearing gear, led the convoy. But Ukrainian attacks continued and hit another APC in the convoy, disabling it and blocking the road for the rest of the vehicles. There was a Ukrainian defensive position nearby. One Russian APC tried to push forward instead of waiting and ran over a mine. Others tried to do the same and were also destroyed by mines. Ukrainian forces took advantage of the stalled convoy and ramped up their attacks, pounding the Russians with artillery. Panic spread through the Russian convoy. Things only got worse when the panicked armored vehicles tried to flee but ended up hitting more mines, leading to even more casualties. Some vehicles weren't completely destroyed but were immobilized. Ukrainian troops quickly moved in to finish them off. As a result of these attacks, Russia suffered massive losses in both tanks and APCs. Ukrainian forces kept the pressure on, methodically destroying the Russian armored vehicles. Even the heavily damaged ones were finished off with drone strikes. Russian vehicles couldn't retreat because of all the mines scattered across the area. Elsewhere, another Russian convoy was spotted trying to launch an attack. This one included an SUV, a truck, an MTLB, and an APC. A Ukrainian drone operator struck first, targeting and destroying the SUV. Then another drone dropped a bomb on the MTLB. A third drone hit the APC, setting off the ammo inside and causing an even bigger explosion. Armored vehicles were loaded with ammo, so each hit caused massive explosions. One Russian vehicle kept moving forward, unaware it was being tracked by a drone. A Ukrainian drone operator followed it closely and landed a direct hit. After the explosion, the Russian tank came to a stop. That's when a second Ukrainian drone flew in through an exposed section and hit it with pinpoint accuracy. These kinds of strikes are highly effective in taking out armored vehicles. Other Russian vehicles, now separated from the main convoy, kept moving through the area in a scattered, uncoordinated way. One of them became the next target for Ukrainian drone operators. The drone hit it head-on, causing the vehicle to stop, and then a powerful explosion followed. Depending on where the drone hits, it sometimes takes multiple strikes to fully destroy these vehicles. But because they're packed with ammunition, one well-placed hit is often enough to blow them up completely. One Russian vehicle got stuck in the middle of a minefield. Ukrainian forces took advantage of that and hit it with a drone. Not long after, another drone hit followed. The vehicle caught fire and eventually exploded in a massive fireball. A close-up view of an APC shows the internal ammo detonating after being hit. Ukrainian forces were able to push back the Russian convoys successfully. Stuck or disabled Russian vehicles were being picked off one by Ukrainian drone operators. Some of these vehicles were found abandoned, probably due to earlier attacks without any direct combat. Ukrainian forces wiped out all Russian vehicles in the area, moving or not. While scouting, Ukrainian forces also discovered a Russian missile storage facility. Reports say Russia had been using this site to store and supply ammunition for a while. The Ukrainians waited for the perfect moment to strike. Once the location was confirmed, a HIMARS team prepared and launched 2 missiles that hit the target precisely. You could clearly see how effective the strike was. The second missile hit the exact same spot, destroying all of Russia's stored ammunition in the process. Later, a Ukrainian recon team spotted a Russian Buk air defense system. They monitored the vehicle until it stopped moving. Once the coordinates were locked in, Ukrainian forces launched a high-powered strike and destroyed the freshly deployed system instantly. The Russian Buk air defense system is considered a modern remnant of Soviet-era military power. It's a short to medium-range missile system designed to target low-flying threats. Despite its high-tech appearance, the use of such systems has raised serious concerns about international law and civilian safety. In Russia's ongoing aggression against Ukrainian territory, Buk systems have been heavily used in occupied areas to suppress civilians and maintain air dominance. Their mobility allowed Russian forces to keep shifting them around, which made it harder for Ukrainian air forces to carry out operations. In response to this threat, the Ukrainian military showed strong resistance, successfully taking down these Soviet-era systems using both drones and advanced Western weapons. While modern versions of the Buk system are still active on the battlefield, Ukraine's growing tech capabilities and increasing Western support have steadily improved their ability to neutralize threats like this. Meanwhile, a Russian Grad multiple rocket launcher system was getting ready to fire. It was operating alone in the area and began launching a series of rockets, which immediately gave away its location. In response, Ukrainian forces sent in drones. After completing its strike, the Russian Grad tried to retreat quickly, but a Ukrainian FPV drone followed and hit it directly. The result? A huge explosion that completely destroyed the Grad launcher. On April 7, 2025, Ukraine's 82nd Air Assault Brigade detected unusual activity near the village of Jovo in Russia's Kursk region. According to advanced recon team analysis, a small Russian infantry unit was trying to use abandoned homes in the area as shelter. The soldiers were cautiously moving into the buildings one by one, trying to take up positions inside, but Ukrainian forces noticed everything. The 82nd Air Assault's recon units tracked their movements step by step. Ukrainian leadership made a strategic decision to wait until all the Russian soldiers were inside the building. Timing was critical. They needed to surround the target completely. When the moment came, the Ukrainian artillery units received the coordinates, and the strike began. The first shell landed directly on. The strike hit the center of the building, triggering a massive explosion. A barrage of follow-up strikes turned the entire area into a living hell. Many Russian soldiers were killed instantly, while the survivors scattered in panic, trying to hide in nearby buildings. But their efforts weren't enough to escape. Ukrainian forces continued the operation, neutralizing every remaining Russian element in the area, one by one. This swift, decisive action in the village of Jovo once again showed Ukraine's tactical edge on the battlefield. On April 8, 2025, a strike unit from Ukraine's 47th Mechanized Brigade identified new Russian positions in the villages of Demidka and Babka. located in Ukraine's Bilhorod region in the east. As seen in earlier operations, after intense clashes, Russian infantry often gets separated from their units and tries to hide in abandoned buildings nearby. This has become one of the most common survival tactics on the battlefield. Footage from the operation clearly shows several Russian soldiers hiding inside deserted homes in the villages. Anticipating this tactic, Ukrainian forces maintain constant surveillance in the area, using drone thermal imaging and intel gathered from local collaborators. Thanks to this, these makeshift shelters are quickly discovered. The Strix unit carried out an FPV drone strike directly targeting one of these hiding spots. The house used as a shelter was hit with extreme precision. The explosion was so powerful it completely leveled the structure, and the Russian soldiers inside were instantly neutralized. Drone footage clearly showed the accuracy and impact of the hit. Due to the limited number of hiding places in the area, Russian troops are forced into increasingly risky and exposed positions. One particularly striking moment was when a Russian soldier tried to hide inside a drainage canal to survive. But the movement was spotted by Ukrainian drone operators who directed an FPV drone straight into the canal for a locked-in strike. The force of the blast launched the soldier out the other end. With this operation, all shelters used by Russian forces in the area were systematically destroyed by the Ukrainians. Also on April 8, 2025, Ukraine's 110th Mechanized Brigade was engaged in drone combat with Russian infantry in the villages of Skudny and Novocheryatovaty in the Donetsk region. These villages have become hotspots in the ongoing fight as Russia continues attempts to occupy them. Their proximity to the front lines and their location at the heart of the military activity make them both symbolically and strategically important. Skudny, located near Volnovakha, is seen as a key transit point in Russian plans to break deeper into Donetsk by bypassing southern Ukrainian defenses. The village holds major strategic value due to its closeness to key supply routes, making it vital for controlling logistical pathways. Similarly, Novocheryatovaty is strategically important because it sits near the Mokry-Yaly River to the east. This river has long served as a natural barrier that shapes both defensive and offensive strategies. Controlling this village matters not only for crossing the river, but also for any potential attempts to encircle well-established Ukrainian defensive lines. Because of this, Ukraine continues to actively defend the area and reacts immediately to any infiltration attempts. In March 2025, Russian forces claimed they had launched large-scale attacks towards Skudny and captured the village. However, Ukrainian sources questioned the accuracy of these reports. They stated the fighting was still ongoing in the area, with Ukrainian forces strengthening their defensive lines and resisting Russian attempts to take over the villages. Kyiv insists that capturing these villages is often more about propaganda and psychological warfare than actual military success. Russia's claims of advancement in these zones rarely reflect the real situation and are mostly aimed at creating an illusion of dominance on the battlefield. One of the most notable aspects of this ongoing battle is Ukraine's highly effective use of FPV kamikaze drones. Russian troops trying to advance through nearby villages often hide in trenches, wooded areas, or abandoned buildings. But once Ukrainian recon drones detect their positions, FPV drones are quickly deployed. These drones are guided directly toward enemy locations and cause significant damage to Russian infantry and light armored vehicles.